Next item, Mike.
Under Education, every student future-ready strategic plan, schools are trusted as safe places. The Every Student Future-Ready plan focuses on 4 long-term goals. Goal number 4 is designed to ensure that schools are trusted as safe places by students, parents, staff, and community. Tonight's presentation will highlight Year 2 of the 5-year plan for Goal 4, which will describe the implementation of action plans and measurements in order to monitor the success of ensuring that Wichita Public Schools are safe and trusted environments. This presentation is for the board's information.
Welcome, ladies. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Evening.
See, Ms. Terri and I are tag teaming to provide to you information on the progress of our Every Student Future Ready plan. As Dr. Mike just shared, we are going to delve deeper tonight into talking about goal number 4, which is schools trusted as safe places. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to share with you. Before we actually get started talking specifically about goal number 4, I'm going to take you back on a little bit of a journey to let you know what has been occurring to where we are at today. So we know that we have thousands of stakeholders that provided input that shaped the strategic plan, which was approved in April 2018. And this plan included those 4 audacious goals that our district and our community have come to know as our commitment to progress in the Wichita Public Schools. And so just in case there's someone out there who's watching and listening that has not heard about it, it is our Every Student Future Ready plan, and there's information all about it and this journey on the district's website, www.usd259.org/future-ready. And so coming up are those 4 big goals. Results of our first year was shared with you last April, and there was a video that highlighted those outcomes that has been widely shared online during community presentations and most recently at our fall community listening sessions. The video really highlights those accomplishments during year 1. And so if there's someone who hasn't had the opportunity to see the video, they also can locate it on that district website page that is specifically for our strategic plan work. And so last April, we told you that we would be coming back and sharing with you this fall a deeper dive into the data that is driving the pursuit of success. And today is the start of a 4-month series of reports that we will be bringing to you that will do just that. And so as you can see, the goals here are not presented in sequential order. And that is because each goal is going to be presented when we have data available within the district, but also some of the data that we're collecting comes from the Kansas Department of Education. And so we need to make sure that we have that available as well when we present our 4 goals to you. Additionally, the visual presentation of the data, which we are calling our scorecards, will be added to our district website so that we are transparent with this data for all of our stakeholders to see. A scorecard for each of those long-term goals will be housed on the strategic plan webpage on the district website. And those scorecards will allow our stakeholders to be able to monitor the progress that we are making towards each of those goals. And so in our Volume 2 strategic plan document, our goal number 4 reads, actually, you can join me in reading what goal number 4 states. By 2023, an approval rate of
90% or higher from staff, students, and parents will be achieved and maintained in all safety categories.
And so this big goal actually ties into the Kansas Department of Education's Kansas Can statewide strategic plan, which has actually, they have 5 goals as well. One of those goals is social emotional growth as it is measured by each local school district. So the success measure, thank you. The success measure actually has 3 data points that we have identified as key indicators. They include Safe and Civil School Survey, Employee Engagement Assessment, which is a new tool that we have this year, and also looking at our UTW Workload Survey. We're going to explore more deeply with each of those in just a moment, but you will see that last spring we had actually a few other indicators that were listed in our plan, including behavior supports implemented, increasing the efficiencies of system operations, and improve the turnaround time in all system applications for employees entering the district. And so what we have learned during this past year, that this is truly a living document. And so when we come back in April 2020, you will see that some of those indicators we have found fit in other places of the strategic plan, and some might even be new based upon what we are learning each day as we dig into this plan and it actually becomes the focus of our work every day. So now, digging a little deeper into our targets, we're looking at to help measure our success of accomplishing that goal of 90%. 90% of those who trust that WPS is a safe place. Safe and Civil Survey, or Safe and Civil Schools, is a survey that our students, staff, and families have an opportunity to complete that helps us measure the perceptions of those stakeholders, of how they consider the schools to be a safe place. This is currently the best tool that we have to measure that. There's a group of questions that are comprised to create a set of data that speak specifically to student data. The confidence interval for staff and students is at a ±1%. Our participation for our parents still needs to continue to increase, but we have that, before we have that level of confidence that, like with our students and our staff. So we will continue to identify strategies to increase the participation of our families. Our baseline data for 2019 was collected this fall with our Safe and Civil Survey. Participants believe our schools as safe were the group of questions that we pulled from. Parents, 97.5% indicated that they felt our schools were a safe place. 90%, just a little over 90%, staff felt that as well. And our students perceived at 85.2% of those participants indicated our schools as safe places. So then we also have an employee engagement assessment tool. I mentioned that this tool was administered for the first time this fall. This tool actually is an evolution of a staff questionnaire that our Labor Management Committee has been asking of our employees for a number of years. It is focused on feedback from all employee groups that will help us retain the best and most highly qualified employee community possible in order to support Wichita Public Schools. Our first survey window is just now concluding, so full results will not be available until later this year. But we have pulled out feedback related to the question of whether my building has adequate, tongue twister there, security measures in place. Our preliminary data indicates that we will be very close to that 90%. There is also a workload survey that is administered by our teachers union to certify staff that fall under the teachers negotiated agreement. It provides data on how certified staff perceive workload, professional learning, and safety in our schools. UTW shares results with us, and we consider this an important, independent indicator of the attitudes of our certified staff. According to the 2018-19 survey results, the question, I feel safe in and around my school. Over 89% of our elementary school respondents stated always or most of the time. 92.5% of our middle school respondents indicated always or most of the time. 85.8% of our high school, and as a district, 87.7%. I feel safe in my room. Over 96% of those respondents from elementary indicated always or most of the time. 96% of middle school respondents, always or most of the time, and 93% of our high school respondents. 94.7% of our district respondents indicated they feel safe in their room, always or most of the time. So, one thing that you may have heard us talk about before in the context of the 4 disciplines of execution is something about lag measures. This is the data which track the success of our wildly important goals. And we also call those our WIGs. Not literally put on your head, but those wildly important goals. They are called lag measures because by the time you see them, the performance that drove them has already passed. We also track what we call lead measures. On this hand, these are both predictive, meaning they lead to the accomplishments of the wildly important goals, and they are influenceable, meaning you can do something with them. In the context of our strategic plan, the lead measures that all of us throughout the system have defined for our work prompt us to narrow our focus to the handful of actionable, influenceable items that will lead to success by the end of the goal. It is important to note that through our engagement of the entire district community, it is divisions, it's departments, it is schools, we all have WIGs. In addition to wearing one sometimes, but those WIGs, those goals that have lead measures and lag measures that have aligned us as an entire system and extend our focus and our prioritization throughout the entire system. And this is probably for me one of the most exciting things to be able to see within the district is to talk to a building leader and see how their building goals completely align with the district goals, or to talk to another department. And Terry's going to speak in a moment about operations and how they fully align with our strategic plan. This is where we believe you will see change in what we articulate in the plan as we continue to come forward and provide you updates. We have 2 significant lead measures to share with you tonight. We anticipate that we may add more over time and be able to share those additions to you in April 2020. But for now, there are 2 significant lead measures that we want to share with you that are key to achievement of long-term goal number 4. One is the mental health pilot and the participation in that program and the success that it has had. The other is the work of our Safety and Environmental Services Department to meet and exceed the KSDE Safe Schools standards. First, I'll talk to you about the implementation of the mental health pilot, which we believe is a key indicator in contributing to our district being trusted as a safe place. Our pilot was implemented in 2018-19 in 22 of our schools in partnership with ComCare and the Kansas Mental Health Coalition. This pilot served not only targeted students in those 22 schools, but they also helped us connect their families with wraparound services in the community to provide them necessary supports at home as well. The program served 737 students in its first year. Those students that were in the program, 67% of them saw improved attendance, 70% saw improved behavior, 53% saw improved academic performance. Because of the program's success in year one, we elected to expand in 2 additional schools this year, now serving students in 24 district schools. These numbers will serve as our baseline for improving this key implementation of behavior supports, which is one of our lead measures. You will likely see 1 or 2, again, additional lead measures when we bring you back Volume 3 in April. So our second lead measure is why Terry's sitting next to me. We can't achieve our wildly important goal regarding safety if we don't implement and exceed the expectations that KSDE has created for schools, Kansas schools, through the Safe and Secure School Senate Bill 109, Section 76. As a lead measure for the district's overall strategic plan, this is the WIG for the Division of Safety and Environmental Services. And so I'm going to turn it over to Terri to update us.
I'm a child of the 70s. So I tell people our wig has really big hair. As a part of the legislative process in 2018, the legislature identified that school safety was a need statewide. And as you know, they set aside $5 million for schools to spend on school safety. The part of that didn't get as much coverage was this part, and that is those goals that they set. They asked the Department of Education to come up with some standards in regards to school safety. Many of you work in construction, many of you work in different areas, and you know there are set standards for those kind of things. There wasn't any really written standards in regards to school safety. It was kind of just, hey, everybody knows we need to have secure entrances, but it really wasn't in writing. So as a part of that process in December of 18, these standards were created. These standards are much, much longer than this, but for the purpose of a PowerPoint and putting it in a font that you can read, here's what we have. We have safeguarding the infrastructure, creating or enhancing the security technology systems, communication systems between us and first responders, emergency notification for people who aren't necessarily on school grounds, crisis plans, annual training for staff and students, crisis drills, and then consulting with local officials and sharing plans as appropriate. So we took this WIG, and this is our WIG, is to meet and exceed these standards. Because although they did a fairly comprehensive job of writing these standards, we know that there are constantly changes in the world, in the environment, and we need to be ready to adapt and change as needed. So our WIG is to meet and exceed the standards set out by the Kansas State Department of Education. The first thing we did is actually just go through and document, again, because I said before there were no real standards that gave us any guidance about where we were. When we received these standards, we sat down as a group and we just documented our infrastructure, our security technology, where we are with communications and how we communicate with people. Our ParentLink system that we use, our crisis template is one actually when they created this, they asked us, the state of Kansas asked us for our crisis plans as they created a statewide template. All hazards approach, I've talked to you about before. This, of course, was created as a result of school shootings nationwide. But they realize as well as we do that you need to create plans that deal with all hazards in regards to school safety. You can't just focus on those violent intruder incidents. Excuse me. So we look at an all hazards approach. Of course, we created the Run, Hide, Fight video almost 5 years ago now, and we do crisis drills. And then we also work where we have a great relationship with our first responders. We're very fortunate to have police departments between Park City, Bel Air, and the Wichita Police Department, the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Department. Sedgwick County Fire Department, and the Wichita Fire Department that are all great, great partners with Wichita Public Schools. Go ahead. So how are we funding these improvements? We're using that grant, those grant dollars. That first year we applied for and received, we applied for more, but we received $922,000. This current school year, they gave us $921,000, and that's a 1-to-1 match, and we're using your capital outlay money to match those dollars. And then we also applied for, and this is a first, COPS stands for the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, and this is the first time ever that the federal government opened COPS money to a non-commissioned, non-law enforcement agency. And we applied for that money and received $332,000. And so thank you to everybody who helped us with that. And as I said thank you, I do want to thank everybody. I want to tell everybody that safety is not my area. It is everybody's area. And I am so very, very fortunate to have the administrative staff that we have, the support behind me, the people that are in our schools who listen, who provide us feedback about how we can make them safer. It is truly, truly a team effort. We cannot do this. Safety and Environmental Services cannot do this alone. This is truly a team effort, you being a part of that team. So thank you for the work you do as well. So just to go through these 8 standards, there's actually 9, but we're going to focus on 8. The first one is safeguarding the infrastructure. And that picture you see there is one of our staff members doing a building survey. And that's under that CPTED, that's Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. We've trained 2 of our staff members on crime prevention through environmental design, where they look at very kind of things that you wouldn't think about. They're actually looking at a roof point entry, and is it safe, and how secure it is. So that's just an example of the kind of things that we do. Facilities improvements, of course, we've focused on secured entries. We try as much as possible to run people through our offices whenever we can, because we believe that's the safest way to screen somebody, is to actually have one-on-one contact and talk with them before we allow them into our building. Door and room numbering, that's what I call our low-tech kind of thing. Just putting numbers on doors. Right now, if you go to any one of our buildings, they have numbers on the outside of the doors. There's no numbers on the inside. And we're working on putting those numbers on the inside. So if you're on the inside and somebody's having a heart attack and you're calling 911 and they're saying, where are you in this humongous building? You can say where I am. Door locks. We're working on putting interior door locks on our classrooms. We're almost all the way through all of our elementary schools, and we'll continue to work on that. Fences. That's one of those things that you guys approved, and I'm incredibly thankful for. I know we had some negative feedback, but I can tell you that they've been a great asset. Every time we do a lockdown because of maybe police activity in the neighborhood, with a fence on a playground, you can get kids in and you can do a real quick little visual sweep, and you can see everybody is inside that fence is in the building. Whereas without fences, you couldn't do that. You couldn't tell our parameters and where they are. We've just had a lot of positive feedback in regards to fencing our playgrounds, so we appreciate that. The next one we have listed there is water and radon testing. We've talked to you about that before. That's something that these standards don't talk about, but certainly we want to realize, again, that all hazards approach. We're about halfway through our testing of water for this year. We've set it out as a 3-year process. We're about halfway through that, and we'll do radon next semester. And then the building and safety inspections, our environmental department goes out and inspects every single one of our buildings every year. Julie, you remember this very well. It's a time-consuming process, but it's designed to look at things like exits, fire extinguish, again, that all hazards approach, not just focusing on one thing. Enhanced security technology, this actually is just a picture of a group of cameras. Most of your schools, if you walk them to them, you'll see a monitor now. Just like when you walk into a lot of businesses, you'll see monitors. It's designed to let people know, yes, we're watching what's going on. It also allows staff members to see what's going on in their schools. Our principals, our assistant principals have access to the cameras so they can monitor what's going on, and in most cases, they use them to determine what happened afterwards. We're also, of course, working on our intercoms. We're always trying to keep our fire and intrusion alarms up to date as much as possible. And like I said before, giving administrators access to the cameras on their laptops. EOC is the Emergency Operations Center, just not too far from here on Main. If you go down there right now into their theater that looks just like this, you'll see all kinds of name tags in front of different places, and there's one for Wichita Public Schools. So we have a seat at the table if there is a major tornado. I can tell you when the Jefferson tornado hit back when I was with the Wichita Police Department, I was there and the school was right there with us. And so we have a seat at the table. If there's something major that happens, that allows us to communicate directly one-on-one. I don't have to make a phone call, I'm sitting at the table. And so we have a place there. Again, that's what that wonderful partnership that we have with our local responders. We do have radio communication with first responders, not a tremendous amount, but we do have that. And we're also currently working to update our communication protocols, just to making sure everything's up to date, so when somebody does call, we're very fortunate. I think we're one of the only districts in the state of Kansas that has a 24-hour live person answers the phone call person. And we have protocols when they receive that phone call. Most of them know what to do because they've been there forever and they know, but as we train new people, and certainly you get that unusual call, we want to have a protocol to make sure they know what they're doing and that they're handling it correctly. Emergency notification system, Blackboard and ParentLink is the system that we use. It's the same system that you get the wonderful calls from Dr. Thompson when there is snow out there, but it is a good system. It allows us to contact. It's like a lot of other systems. It's garbage in, garbage out. The best information we have, you give us a good phone number, we will contact you. And that's what we have to have. We have to have the ability to contact you. We're also creating an application for internal notification in regards to communications using that same application. Crisis plans. Happy to say that all our plans have been received for the current year. We brought the plan for you. You approved it. It's been approved by the board. We update it every year. Again, we look at what's on that crisis plan. We look at what's going on nationwide. An example, this year we changed the terminology. We used to have a level 1 and a level 2 lockdown. The movement nationwide is to go to plain speak. And we changed that from a level 1, level 2 to a lockout and a lockdown. Lockout, everybody stays outside your building, everything going on is the same. You pull people in from playground recess. The example I give, you've got somebody, a dog that looks kind of vicious in the neighborhood. Let's get the kids inside, let's lock them, let's lock out everybody that's out there. Lock down, we're gonna take that next step higher. So those are the kind of changes that we make every year. We try to research, make sure that we're keeping up to date with what's going on. Annual training for students and staff. This is just a really short list. Under my wish list, you've already heard it tonight under more time. When we talk about the valuable resources we have, time is one of the most valuable resources we have. We would really like to have more time to do training, but we try to do the best we can with the amount of time we have. We do the annual suicide awareness and prevention. That's mandated by state law. We do our run, hide, fight. We focus on things like clerical training, making sure that we aren't just training students and what we consider the obvious, the teacher, but we also train the clerical as well. Nonviolent crisis intervention. Tiffinie talked a little bit about the behavior emotional. That's part of that, being able to respond to those. And some specialty things we do are like youth court and the Teen Drug Summit. Conductor drills. This little statement here I got, and I wish I could remember where I got it, but I use it over and over and over again. The most important reason for conducting the drills is to instill confidence rather than fear. And I'm going to say that again. The most important reason we do the drills is to instill confidence. And you think about what you do every day. Hey, I know if there's a fire drill, I know exactly where I'm going to go. I've got the confidence to handle that situation, and that's why we do drills. So that, hey, I'm not in chaos. I'm not at a loss. So that's why we do drills. The other thing that we added this year, we asked the schools to complete a drill evaluation form, and that gives us feedback. So we know, hey, this didn't work. That didn't work. Somebody didn't hear the intercom, and so we can actually work to fix things. It's that important part of feedback, figuring out what worked and what didn't work. Standard 8, sharing with local first responders. Our first responders have our crisis plans. We participate in the local emergency operations planning. Was there just earlier this month at EOC as they were working on their calendar for this year. First responders from the police department, the fire department, and 911 are all on our district crisis team. We have a yearly meet and greet with them, so we get together, we ask our principals to meet with staff, and if they can't make it, we always try to find a way to make sure law enforcement, fire, and our principals get together. And of course, we have our SRO program, which has been a great value to our district. The last one that is not up there, standard number 9, involves firearms training. And it says that if you train students in regards to, say, firearm handling, you have to use a certain curriculum. Since we don't do that, we didn't deal with standard number 9. So going above and beyond, like I said, we want to not only meet, but we want to exceed. So some of the things that we do beyond that are the threat assessment process, our Speak Up program. We think it's essential. We couldn't survive without an anonymous reporting program, and if you look at the data and the information nationwide, every school needs to have an anonymous reporting problem, because kids are just afraid to talk sometimes, and if they can give the information without having to give their name, then certainly that's going to work. We also do a monthly informational newsletter to staff that comes from my staff, and I think they do a great job with that. And one of the things we added this year, we changed our suicide protocol. This is actually in student support services. Again, like I said, it's not just us. But we're using the Columbia Suicide Assessment Scale so that our trained staff who meet with kids who have had either a suicide statement or suicide ideology, they can help them and they can better understand what kind of assistance they need using that tool. That's it. Where we're going in the future, we're going to continue to meet and exceed these standards. And one of the most important things, and one of the most, I tell people, exhausting tasks that we have is to continually research ways to improve all these areas. And I'm sure Dr. Thompson, Dr. Irving feel the same way. There are so many products out there in terms of education. There are so many products out there in terms of safety. It literally is a daily grind to figure out what would work best for us, how best to use those valuable resources that we have, both in terms of time and dollars. That's the wildly important goal. Thank you.
Her big wig.
My big hair.
Big hair, I'm sorry.
Big hair. We do have some questions, if you're ready for questions. Julie?
Dr. Irving, when you were first going through the data points, you said that in the employee engagement baseline data, that was one question that was responded to where you got that data. On the teacher workload survey baseline data, there were 2 questions, and so you have the data for the 2 questions. On the SCS baseline data, what is that? One question? Is that a group of questions? What's that? What's that one?
It is actually a group of questions that are all written around specifically school safety.
Okay, so that big questionnaire we see that has a whole lot of questions.
Has a whole lot of
That's
questions.
where that one comes from.
Correct.
And then I guess all the answers are tallied somehow for you to come up with the percentage of.
That is correct. So there are many questions on that entire survey, and then there is a cluster of questions specifically around school safety. And so the data that was shared is a combination of those questions combined together to come up with those percentages.
Okay, thank you. Now that's great data, and it'll be good to see it improve each year. So.
Ron?
Yeah, Dr. Irving, when is the Safe and Civil Schools administered? Is it, it's once a year, correct?
It is once a year.
What time of year?
We have a window, and this year the window was open for majority of the first semester. So we opened it in September, and it ended in November. So it allowed our schools to have flexibility in when to administer it to their students, as well as with their staff. And then we did some marketing and communication to inform our parents of it as well.
Okay, and one for Terri. I was looking at the video camera shots you have there on the PowerPoint. I know some of our schools live in some interesting neighborhoods. So as far as the cameras on the outside of the building, is there some coordination between us and the WPD? Because I know I've heard from some building principals that they know that people just party out on site, outside. You know, like I said, I live down the street from one, and so, you know, I just kind of curious on is there any coordination? How does that work?
Yes, we've met with them on a regular basis. In most cases, it's when they call us asking, do we have video related to an incident that occurred? We'll have calls. Of course, we have things that occur in our parking lots, like you said, those kind of things. So we do coordinate it with them and work with them, and as requested, try to partner with them to resolve issues in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have 3 questions. One is for you, Terri, and you have 8 goals, but you don't have standards. You don't have percentages or any way to measure these. Have you put that in place yet?
That's what the safe and civil, because by doing all of this stuff,
That
This-
shows up in the safe and civil?
that's she gave you the data in regards to how our work to provide these things are making people feel trusted as safe places.
Right,
So that's why it's a combined presentation between her and I this evening.
okay, that answers that question. Then my question is, when I look at your data points for the 3 surveys or questioning pieces that you're doing, the employment engagement, et cetera, 90% is our goal by 2023. We're almost there in most of those areas. I mean, we've exceeded it in some areas, so that's not too much of a challenge.
Well, one of the things that we know we want to do, need to do, is to increase the participation of our families, providing us that feedback so that we have that confidence interval, that we feel we have a large enough sample. So one of the things that we are doing is continuously looking at what could we do to get more of our families an opportunity to be able to complete the survey, as well as digging into specific questions. So overall, those percentages are looking pretty good, but we need to look at those individual questions as well, because it is a cluster of questions, and identify, are any of those questions lower than that 90% that we need to identify strategies and things to put in place to address. But you're right, if we get to a point that we are exceeding that 90%, then we need to look at also what other goals should we be establishing in order to ensure that we are providing safe, trusted environments for all of our stakeholders.
And I'm
Okay.
going to add a little bit to that as far as the data. That's what happens with the strategic plan. If you have goals in place and you meet those goals, just because it says 2022 doesn't mean that we'll just keep that one on there for 2022. If we've accomplished that goal and we have some consistency with that in a particular area, then we may want to look at other areas also that we need to improve on, and then add those in and adjust the plan. So just because you have it on there, if you don't, because we didn't meet it in all the areas, as you know that, and then some you did. Well, if there are some that we did, and we've done that consistently over a period of time, then we need to take that goal off and add another goal where we have more work to be done in. So that's what a strategic plan is going to do for us. It's just to allow us to monitor, be consistent, know that it's set in place and it is working on a consistent basis, and then adjust as we need to.
Okay. The confidence interval that's listed on the PowerPoint, for example, for building engagement, is 95%. So is that a goal, or is that where we are now?
For the,
In your PowerPoint, it says employee engagement, that's the slide, but you've done the same on each one of those.
yes,
You give a confidence interval, and it says 95%. Is that where we think we are now, or is that our goal?
that is our goal. That employee engagement tool is new this year, and so we actually don't have the data to present to you right now for it, because that window is still occurring, and what we would want is that 95%
Okay.
interval.
So we'll bring data back to tell us if that improves or where it is?
We'll
Okay.
be able to share that with you at the April 2020 presentation when we recap the entire year.
Okay, one more question.
Okay.
The mental health plan, does that include our behavior and suspension data?
The improvement in behavior includes any type of discipline referral. So that would include office referrals that could result in a disposition of something occurring in school or out-of-school suspension, so.
Yeah, because to track data on our program is great. I really like that, and I certainly want that. But we also, because one of our concerns is behavior, we want to start tracking data on that too as well. And what I hear you say is that you're going to.
Yes, so that's one of the indicators that originally we thought we would include with this particular goal. We, as I stated, it's been a living document, and as we talk about those lead and lag measures, we know that it has implications for not only this goal, but also goal number 1 as well as number 2. And so what you will see from us when we come back and present goal number 1 related to graduation, as well as goal number 2, which is increasing reading proficiency, there are behavior indicators listed under each of those, and so we'll be able to share that data with you at that time.
Okay, great, because I just don't want us to forget that, because that's a huge issue.
It is, and one of the things, not to jump too far ahead, but you'll also see things like attendance, because those are things that have implications on multiple goals. So it was a matter of, okay, so which of the goals do we place it? And so you'll hear about those things at future presentations.
Okay,